Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello, everybody. I am so excited about this episode, and I know I have actually been doing some teasing on my Instagram about this and even made a poll to get some of your guys' questions in here, so you might even hear yours. Today, we are going to be hearing from someone who is not only an incredible athlete and pro for the last 9 years, but also a fitness model, stylist, blogger, online trainer, posing coach, and wife, Tawna Eubanks. So how are you doing, Tawna?
Hey, what's up? I am so pumped to be on here.
Yay! I'm
much
so
for
happy.
having me today. Yeah.
Yes, you're so welcome. Of course, it was a no-brainer, and I'm glad that you're so open to doing it, and I appreciate you taking the time as well.
Absolutely. I was so excited to hear from you. I love being a part of this and just talking about all of the things. And so I'm excited to see what we got in store for today.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into a lot of the fun stuff that I have planned, I'm just going to ask you what I ask everybody, which is, do you have a ritual or something you think about or do right before you step on stage?
Oh man, right before I step on stage. Well, I mean, for one, I'm eating rice cake and peanut butter.
Naturally.
I think that's a pretty good ritual that most everybody does. one of the most memorable. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm just running through my routine and just trying to, ease myself because and that's what I always tell all my posing girls too, is like, it doesn't matter how long I've been on stage. I mean, I've been on stage my entire life. Before you go out there, the adrenaline is through the roof. The excitement is just like crazy. So I'm just trying to tell myself, to breathe, take this all in, because I think for the most part, when I walk out on stage, sometimes it's easy to just be blink and you're done and you didn't even like soak it up. So for me, I don't really have to prep myself for posing just because that's always been like a natural thing and it just kind of goes. But I always want to just make sure that whenever I got off the stage, I soaked up absolutely every single second that I was on there doing my thing. So I'm just trying to prep myself and say, okay, enjoy all of this moment because it's only like 2.5 seconds. So I'm just trying to get my emotions in check, I think. So really just kind of having little inside pep talks and running through my routine.
Yes, that's awesome. I actually before I think it was my last show. I was thinking of the song Lose Yourself by Eminem, and girl, I went so slow. It ended up not being good, for the routine aspect, but I was just trying to literally lose myself in the moment, and I was like, well, that was too slow, but I was able to I literally experienced the whole thing, and it felt so good that now I've learned my lesson.
Hey, and you know what? I mean, I love that you say that and you're so open about that because I mean, it's trial and error, right? Every time you walk out on stage, you're going to try something a little bit different, a little bit new, and you walk away going, never again. Or you're like, yes, nailed it.
Yeah, totally. And I also love that you're so open and you share a lot of vulnerability on your own platform. And I really believe that social media is a great place to do that, and it needs to be a lot more prominent. I think it breeds more authenticity, and if we can be creating space for people to really share and learn from one another, then we can grow more as a collective consciousness, really. So when I saw you post about how you're going to be hitting the stage again this year after a break, I was really curious about all of that. So a lot of the questions I'm going to ask today is relative to that, but also your life too. So it's obvious that you have a love and a passion for this sport, and it's helped you to maintain your longevity in it. But in your 9 years in the IFBB Pro League, I'm curious as to what kinds of challenges you faced that actually eventually led you to find the balance that you talk about.
Yeah, and thank you so much for, just appreciating and taking note that I am so open and honest. Really just by nature. That's how I've always been. Sometimes my closest friends tell me I'm too open and honest.
Same.
Like I don't know. There's not really a filter. I just like, it comes out as is. And it's not because I'm, mean or meaning. I want you to know the absolute truth. And I just don't think that there's any other way to go through life than just being open and real. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'd rather know the truth than to not know and then figure it out the hard way. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So,
yes.
Everybody's different, but I appreciate that.
Of course.
It was a very rough time for me. I've kind of gone over it just like a little bit, but I've never gone into depth about exactly why I took, time away from the stage. It was just kind of open I just kind of got tired and I needed to take a break, and I got too in it. But I never go into full depth. And so I can kind of go more into that right now. That would be a great time for me to do that.
Totally.
But more or less, I was, a little bit vague with it and just said, I got tired. I'd been doing it for so long, and I just lost my love for it. And I got a little too out of control as far as, too much competing and not enough life and living. And really and truly, all that is true. But in more depth, I just, I had been competing since 2010. That was my first show, and I had just done show after show. I did do off seasons and take breaks, of course. But really what finally did it in for me, that I knew that I was going to just have to completely take a break for forever and never come back, or take a break for a while. And whenever I had decided to do that, I honestly, when I took those 2 years off, I thought that was it. I thought, okay, that I'm just never going to go back. But really what did it was I had such a successful year in 2015. It was my first pro win. On to my next 2 shows in which I had pro wins as well. So I had 3 consecutive pro wins and went straight into Olympia and was top 8. So I got 8th place that year. On to the next show, I got 1st place as well and automatically requalified for Olympia next year. So needless to say, I was on the high of all highs, right? So what that Olympia, my husband proposed to me.
Wow.
And so I was extra high, And then that very next year, I came back and I was like, all right, I'm going to go and defend all my titles. So I did. And that first show back, I got 3rd. And then the next show, I got 3rd. And then the next show, I got 4th. And then I went into Olympia and got 11th. And then I went into that final show that I always do to try to requalify, and I got 3rd. So for most people, they're like, oh, wow, you were top 5 at pro shows and right outside of top 10 for Olympia. That's amazing. Me as a competitor and an athlete, and how deep and, I guess you could say mentally kind of sick I was, that was pure devastation for me. It was 3rd place was, I was distraught. Like, what? I just won all these shows and I was top 8. I mean, it just totally consumed me mentally. And it just, it was that first show whenever I came back and I got third. From then on, when I kept, not, end quote, defending my title, it just mentally got to me. And I thought that I was just, gonna go in there and do good. And I didn't. And I let it get to me. And I was so just not looking at myself the same anymore, because then it was like after every show I was like, okay, so I got to get leaner, I got to get tireder, and I wasn't even seeing myself for who I really was anymore. I was just so focused on what I had to do to get that title, or to get that trophy, or in our case a tiara.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was it's hard to really all say it all, but it was a very dark time for me. I definitely was not enjoying the stage anymore, and I was just more worried about trying to get first place and beat what I did the time before. And I think that comes by nature with most pro athletes. When you've hit top, if you don't stay top and you go down, then it's can be detrimental to you personally. I know when, now looking back at it, I'm like, what an idiot. What? Top 3? You're a girl, you crazy, but, in that moment, you don't realize how far gone you are. And so it was those deep times right there when I said, I have to go away, and not go away because I wasn't doing good. I know there was a lot of misconception in some things like that I had posted. Some people were thinking, oh, just because you're not winning, you're going to quit. But it was far more than that. I was clearly not healthy in a mental way, and was just pushing myself to extremes. And I knew then that this is not why I do this, and I need to really find myself again. And that's what I did. And I really wanted to be healthy too, because my husband and I were planning our wedding. I wanted to not be a complete psycho, for lack of a better word, for our wedding, So so I, a little bit of a background on that. I'd never been too deep into it, but that's, more or less how I knew, okay, let's take this time away.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think something that I really took away from that I thought was so interesting and brave of you to share as well, was that you weren't looking at yourself the same way. Like you said, you weren't even seeing yourself for who you were. You were just seeing who you needed to be for the title, or for the crown, versus just who you actually are. So in that time off, man, this is opening up so many questions now, but I'm wondering, in that time off, I know now you went into the Olympia this past year and you received third call outs, and you reflected on how your main goal was really to become your best self and to not let being the best get to you as a person. So in that time you took off, what were you doing in order to rediscover you and your reason for doing all of this?
Yeah. So, and let me say too, that the 2-year mark, it wasn't like I got off stage and was like, all right, I'm going to take 2 years off and then I'm going to try to come back. I got off stage that very last show. I'm sorry, I'm kind of tearing up right now.
Oh, it's okay.
I got off stage. No, it's okay. These are good tears, because I'm so different from this girl, but I walked off stage and I just looked at my husband and I said, that is it. I said, I am done. And I threw my heels, like they say, I hung up the heels. I hung those suckers up with a passion. I was done. I couldn't even stand who I was anymore, because I wasn't looking at myself the same. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I just felt like I turned into this mean monster,
Wow.
So when I took that time, it was for forever. And so 2 years went by. And in that 2 years, my husband and I got married. and it was the most incredible wedding. And we did lots of traveling because we went on our honeymoon. We took a very long honeymoon. We stayed 3 weeks in Thailand.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and so we did a lot of traveling, and we did a lot of branching out in our business. And so at the time, we were owners of Destination Dallas, which is a gym here locally in DFW. And so we did a lot of traveling for our business, and also just for fun and pleasure. And then I started to dabble in some other things as an athlete because by nature, I knew, okay, if I'm not competing on the stage, I've got to be doing something. I'm just a competitive person by nature, and I've always been an athlete. And for me to just go to the gym just to work out it just was not fulfilling enough. I needed to do something, have a goal. So I started to actually take up running, and I started to run. And I
Wow.
kind of found out that I was naturally good at it, which is, you know, honestly, in our sport, I'm not really built for our sport, to be honest with you. I'm probably the tiniest girl on stage when it comes to muscularity. And, I'm just kind of fighting an uphill battle. I'm naturally a long, lanky kind of gal, ectomorph that's made for endurance running. It's just the way my body is. So I did that for a little bit. That was cool. Then I started to say, okay, this kind of hurts my body. I think I'm going to do something else. And I actually started doing Spartan races. And then I was set a goal to do a powerlifting meet, which was so badass. I actually just posted it about that last night on my Instagram. And yeah, so I kind of did a bunch of different things that I felt that I had secluded myself from for so long in competing. And then, along with all of that, I kind of refound myself, and who I was, and why I do the things that I do. As far as being an athlete, it's not about just the trophy; it's the process. And I was refinding that in going and doing all these different things and being active in other things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I think that happens a lot to people. We get wrapped up, especially as athletes and as competitors, we get wrapped up in what it is that we're chasing,
Mm.
rather than like that process, like you said. And it does distract from other areas of life. And I think it requires this level of objectivity to be able to recognize that and be like, okay, I need to branch out. I need to do other things so that I can discover what I've been missing or discover what it is I need. So when you stepped back on stage, did you get any feedback from the judges or from like the league in general about you being back? Like how was that like re-entry essentially?
Yeah, so it was honestly, within our industry, quite a big deal because most pros that, end quote, took time away were just out. They just retired at that point. Nobody really ever had a comeback, and not in the bikini division. Now we've seen the bodybuilders do it and all that, but in the bikini division, most of the girls that, when it was time to tap out, it was tapping out for good. Nobody had really had a comeback, and most girls wouldn't go through with it. And then definitely, if they did, then it probably wasn't always good. And when I came back, everybody was super excited within our league, and that really made me feel good because you always worry, are they going to be like, oh, well, she went away, and for her to come back, who does she think she is? But I think that's like so awesome, about our league is that we are kind of a close knit family in a sense, and everybody kind of knows everybody. And
Mhm.
so whenever I came back, of course, my coaches were just so pumped and ecstatic. And then, different judges, and Jim Mannion, JM Mannion, everybody, that runs the whole league was super excited. And they were like, look, you're back. She's back, And so it just was so cool to just be like, yeah, I'm back. Yeah. And everybody be accepting of it, because you fear that. That was a very big fear of mine whenever I was deciding that I was going to come back, is that, first of all, I was thinking, oh my God, am I even going to be accepted? Is anybody even gonna, be excited or accept the fact that I am coming back? And then I was just scared to death of doing horrible. I was like, oh my God, what if I come back and I just get completely squashed here? The league has changed so much. I mean, our division changes. Like, I swear it changes every month, I mean, the bikini division is just insane to me, it's like, It's definitely, if you think it's changed in the last couple years, imagine being one of the first pros around and watching this bad boy morph over like a 10-year, change. It's insane. So I knew that I was going to, I was worried, am I going to be relevant anymore? Am I even going to be considered a top pro? Or is my physique even comparable? Like, these girls are insane compared to how it used to be. I don't know if I can hang anymore. But yeah, it was awesome. Everybody was very accepting. And I came back strong. I had second place for my first show. And then my second show back, I won and re-qualified for Olympia. So it was crazy.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring. And the fact that you faced those fears and just committed to it because you wanted to is awesome, because I think that would have scared a lot of people to the point where they wouldn't have decided to.
Right.
So I think that that's really cool, and also can teach other people who are listening, like, if you do take time off, those fears are natural, but they are not always valid. So I think that's awesome that you're an example of that. And I'd love to know, like, what is your ultimate goal with competing now? Like, going through all of this, how do you see it now?
So, and I love that you asked that, because that kind of reverts back to whenever I did make the decision to come back to compete. I promised myself, I told myself, look, I want to do this because I love this sport. I love doing this. I love competing. I can't say what it feels like to get on stage and perform, because I've always said this, but performing, it's just in my blood. I live for being on that stage. I just absolutely love it. And it was not worth it to me anymore to be away from it. I knew that I could do it, and that's what I truly wanted to do. But I knew that if I came back, I would have to make a promise to myself to stay in it for the right reasons. I was not coming back to be the top bikini pro in the world, to try to be Miss Bikini Olympia, because trust me, I wanted to be even just in the top 5 for Olympia so bad I would cry at night, just please, please let me be the one. Let me be what they want, I wanted it so bad I could taste it. And especially getting, just 3 places away, it was like, it was there. So it's, I promised myself, okay, when you go back, of course you want to do good. Of course, you wouldn't do this if you didn't, but that's not the only reason that you are doing it. And it does not define you. You are you outside of competing. You just do this for your love and your passion, and because, all the other things that you want to do it. So I did that, and I did that first year, and I did it with a healthy mind, a healthy heart. And I did, of course, doing good says a lot.
Yes.
That makes you feel good too. So that helped. But it was whenever I did the Arnold, and I had a lot of high hopes there after my comeback, and I ended up getting 13th place. And that was, at first, it was just like, oh my God, that hurts,
Yeah.
but I knew, okay, listen, this is your test right here. This is going to tell you, okay, you ain't doing so good, honey girl. How you going to feel?
Yeah.
So I got the true test, and I walked away. And at first, yes, stung like, oh my, I can't even express how bad it hurt. But I walked away and I was like, you know what, girl, this is why you did this. So you better hang your head strong. And I knew, okay, that's fine. So I was perfectly fine with that. And I told myself walking into that Olympia, it does not matter. You go up there, you do your thing. And I wrote this in a blog, but I competed at the Olympia this year. This was my Olympia comeback, and I placed the absolute worst I have ever placed at Olympia in my whole pro career. I've been on the Olympia stage for 5 times now, and this was the worst placing I had ever done. I just tied for 16th. I didn't even place. And I walked away the happiest and the proudest, and just loved everything about what I brought to the stage more than I had ever before, even getting top 8. Because even walking away with the top 8, I was still walking away going, damn, I could have done better. I was so close. I wasn't even soaking it up that I got top 8. I was just like, damn, I was so close. And then I walk away with tying with 16th, crying. I felt like I was Miss Bikini Olympia. Like the way I walked away feeling, I was so different and just doing what I loved. I loved everything, my hair, my makeup, my tan, my suit, my physique, everything was on fleek. I loved it. It was perfect. So I walked away doing what I sought out to do, and that was coming back to the stage to do what I love most and doing it with a happy and healthy mind.
Wow. I love that. It's so amazing. And the fact that you're saying with a healthy mind, I think is a huge, huge takeaway because you've mentioned it a few times now. And I think it's because
Mm-hmm.
it's been so transformational for you. If we step on stage
Mm-hmm.
without a healthy mind or chasing something that's not truly fulfilling deeper than surface level, then we can't even experience what you just said, which is the actual undertaking that we're going through, the actual like
Mm-hmm.
act of stepping on stage, the act of qualifying for the Olympia at all. Like you prior to this were so caught up in, well, I should have been higher, like placed higher, like I could have done better and placed higher, but this time it was like everything was perfect, I did amazing, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
like
And the
so
placing was
good.
the worst. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like oh my gosh, it goes to show like placing doesn't, like you said earlier, winning doesn't define you, competing doesn't define you, and there's so much more to it, but you can still love competing, you can still have that hunger to win. And I literally wrote, and the blog post is going up today, but I literally wrote a post about winning yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about how like winning doesn't just come to the people who are the best, because you can do your absolute best, you can be your absolute best, and there can still be someone who takes place over you. And if you can't accept that and know you gave everything you could, then you'll never be able to be a true winner. Because how can we
Right.
actually define winning if we only see it as a top placing or a certain amount of money or a certain gig or whatever it might be? Like it's just awesome to hear
Mm-hmm.
you say that from your perspective and everything that you've mentioned so far. It's just really cool to hear that. And you also mentioned the physique changes throughout the division, and like the
Yeah.
bikini look, of course, compared to when you first started competing to over the years and even leading up to now and through now, like you said. I'd love to know like what your perspective is on that look.
Yeah. So it's just so funny because I'm like seeing myself on stage whenever. So just really quickly so that you do understand, because I don't think a lot of people do understand, but besides like Amanda Latona, and whoever were the top one, the first ones around or whatever, I think the only ones that are still around that were like one of the first pros is like me and India Paulino, Janet came a little bit later, but was kind of, no, she came quite a bit later. There's only a handful of us, but I started competing in 2010. The bikini division wasn't even a thing until 2009. So the bikini division was only a year old when I first started to compete. So, it was, I'm just like picturing myself and everything. I mean, everything, the suits. I mean, there were girls wearing suits from Target on stage. Like, these were suits that you wore to the swimming pool, and no, scrunch butt was not a thing then. So, it's just like, even the suits were just so crazy. But yeah, when I first started to compete, it was just very, very normal bikini body. There was like really just no muscularity at all. It was just kind of, very curvy, muscle tone, but no shoulders really, and the booties were definitely nowhere near what it is now.
Yes.
And just it just by this sport's nature, because we see it in all the divisions, not just bikini. It evolves, and it just starts getting to where it's like, okay, well, how do you get better? Well, being bigger and harder and more conditioned. And it just started to slowly evolve with each year, and it was like the girls started to get a little bit bigger in the shoulders and a little bit tighter in the glutes, and it just kept evolving. And now, quite honestly, if you looked back then into the future and looked at the girls now, you would say that girls now in bikini were figure then.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. It totally makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm, just to make my statement clear, because I know some people get, offended or whatever, but I'm not saying that it's wrong, or anything. It's just the truth of what has evolved. The girls are so much bigger these days, and, rounder, almost borderline capped shoulders. And, the glute tie-in, I know it's such a big thing, the glute tie-in, it's just funny, like the little things that we pay attention to now were, not even remotely thought of back then. So, it's changed quite a bit, but, it's kind of the fun in it too, is because you have to change with it unless you just don't want to do good at all. So that's been kind of the fun part, and why I do keep on doing it is because it's new challenges for me. If I just had to look the same for the past 10 years, I'd get kind of bored. I don't honestly think I'd compete anymore. I'd be like, all right, well, this is kind of boring. So, it's like just kind of nature of the sport and how it evolves. But it's very, very different for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think anyone listening, like, I would encourage you to definitely look back on old photos compared to now from all the divisions. And you'll see how much it has evolved and changed. And your point about how people think like, well, what's going to be the next best look? Like, how can I be even better? And that can start to change the look as a whole. I think it's really a good point. And also, like, if you are already competing on stage in, let's say, like a bodybuilding competition, it does seem natural that you're going to continue to also build your own body, like in the gym. And over the years, that means your body's going to change. And if the division stayed looking the same, you wouldn't last very long in it anyways, because you wouldn't match the look, or you'd have to move up into a different division. So I personally love the look right now. I don't know that I'd want it to get any harder, but I do like it a lot, and I think it's cool to see how it changes. And I think it's also a great test of like the love for the sport as well, and doing it for, like you mentioned earlier, like the right reasons. Like, you may not yet be at the level of like the new look, not you specifically, but competitors listening, like you may not be where you need to be. But if you can stick with it and do it because you love it and you have passion for it and respect the look and do your best, like that's so good. Like that should be good enough. Winning is awesome. Cherry on top. Nobody wants to lose. But at the same time, like you mentioned earlier, like, can you handle it when you do? Like, those are the things that matter.
Right. And if you can't and you're not enjoying it and you're just like the point where I was, where it was just no more fun and I was just miserable doing it, I just, why in the hell am I doing this? That's why I asked, I was like, what am I doing to myself? Like, this is
Yeah.
awful. Like, I have so much to be like happy about and proud of. And I'm just like sitting here killing myself because I'm not happy with myself. It's not about like, well, the judges didn't like me, so I'm miserable about that. I wasn't happy with myself. And so it's like you gotta, if you are not doing it for the right reasons, like what you're saying, then I don't even know why you're doing it. You need to reassess, and that's exactly what I did. So,
Good point.
yeah, I definitely agree with that statement for sure.
And I know, like, you also said you took like different pivots and paths in your business too. You and your husband did, and you traveled a lot and you started to explore all these different things. You recently landed a cover, which is so
I
amazing.
know. Yeah.
Congratulations. That is
Thank
awesome.
you.
You are
I
so
know.
welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. This was actually my second cover ever. The first cover I
That's
ever did was a
awesome.
Fitness RX magazine, but it was in 2011. So it was like
Wow.
right when I turned pro, and it's been forever. And then I landed this one, and it was just really what I needed right now to just keep my motivation going and my excitement with everything. So very excited about it.
Yes, that is so cool. And if you don't mind me asking, like, how did you get that opportunity or what did you do? Because obviously that doesn't just like fall in everybody's lap. So I'm curious as to maybe what steps you took to be able to get that.
Yeah, so I am very fortunate, I feel, to be with such an amazing, I call them family, but they are my team. I am with Caged Muscle Sups, and I've been an athlete with them now for a little over a year. And they so the main thing came from support from them to landing this cover and getting a spread in there and writing some workout stuff through them. But honestly, I think too, just with my time of being around in the fitness world and just kind of, I hate saying that though, it makes me sound so damn old, like it's like, oh my gosh. But my time of being here in the industry, I feel like it's kind of, I've earned my like name and my stamp of approval of like being a fitness professional, not just a competitor. I like to call myself a fitness professional because I do far more in the fitness world than just compete. Health and wellness in general has been, one of the most positive things in my life. And so I think just kind of earning my name in that all around really helped as well.
Yes, that's awesome. And it's so cool that you are supported so much by the company that you are working with and sponsored by. And I think that that's awesome. And I can tell you really love the supplements as well, which is, of course, a absolute must. And you also
Mm-hmm.
you just have many different passions. You're a very busy woman. I've noticed. I was watching your YouTube videos and your vlogs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the one with your husband, that was really fun. But like from styling to vlogging to, like I said, your vlogs, and then you also love food and you love travel. Like, what does a usual day look like for you?
Oh, yeah, all the things, right? All of them. Yeah, and I've fought a battle with myself of like, oh my God, maybe I'm doing too many different things. Maybe I need to focus on one thing. And I did that for a little while. That was actually what I was talking about whenever I was talking to you about my husband and I were venturing out on our business opportunities and stuff. So we were I was with a different company before, and I wasn't with any other companies. I didn't do any other things. So not only was I an athlete for the company, but I worked in the company, and I was really unhappy. I just, wasn't doing everything that I did want to do and was passionate about. And I felt too secluded to one particular thing. And I love to do all different things. And, it just kind of makes me happy. So that's when my husband and I kind of decided that we needed to venture out and do something else. So when we sold our business, we sold our gym, we sold our business, we sold our building. We just were like, okay, let's restart, refresh, kind of reevaluate. Like I took the 2 years off from competing. We were taking 2 years off from this business venture and kind of going into something else, and we knew we wanted to do health and fitness. We're not going to ever go away from that. That's who we are. And so I just started to do, I'm a very creative person. I like to be creative. And so I always wanted to do, online training. And I love helping other women. I love being able to share my knowledge that I've learned in these past, 9 plus 10 years and share it with other women. And so we started to do my online training and building that. And then I, have a passion for fashion. I love styling. That's what I did for the other company. Was I was a stylist for the photo shoots, and I was a creative director, and I ran all the photo shoots, put everything together, styled the outfits, hired athletes, like everything. And I loved that part about my job. So I wanted to still kind of do something like that. So that's when I took up the fashion blogging and working with different companies and collaborating on different things like that to write blogs or do YouTube try-ons and stuff like that. And then just in general, any kind of, fitness modeling that I did, and the online training. And I'm also a posing coach. So just finding all those new things that weren't so new. I just hadn't really gone after them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's awesome that you allowed yourself to be more than one thing. I think we have been taught in certain aspects, depending on what we follow or listen to, that if we stick to one thing, we'll be way more successful, we'll be way happier, we'll have way more reward from it. But if you're a person who likes to do multiple things, why wouldn't you allow yourself to fulfill that? So I think it's really cool that you did that. You opened yourself up to that. And you just mentioned you do coaching online. You also do posing coaching. So I'm going to pick your brain on that real quick.
Yeah.
What do you think sets apart a great routine from an okay routine?
I'm just laughing because I can hear all my girls. I'm just so adamant on anything cookie cutter. I hate cookie cutter. And I think that's what will set you apart from a mediocre routine, is to not be cookie cutter. You've got to make your routine yours. You've got to find what works best for you. And so I just, it's like if you just copy what somebody does, just because it's like easy, it doesn't mean that posing routine is going to look good on you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It maybe looks okay on her, but it may not look so good on you, and vice versa. So I think for that's the first thing that just pops in my head, is like, just don't have a cookie cutter, because you don't want to look like the next girl that just walked out, or whoever was on stage 2 days ago, or whatever. You want it to be unique to you. And definitely, just in general, just overall fluidity. I think a fluid, routine is
I feel like you were just
look.
moving your arms as you said that.
Oh my God, I was. I'm standing in a window right now. I'm in my guest bedroom because it was a far away room and closed, and I'm like looking out the window, and I'm like, I'm very much like that. I'm very, talk with my arms and my hands. I'm very I use a lot of expression. Yeah. So
I love it.
definitely was doing that. but yeah, just a fluid routine, I know a lot of girls have a tendency to get a routine, rehearse it, and repeat it. And then it ends up just looking that way. It looks like a rehearsed routine. And I just think that the more natural and just effortless that your routine can look, the better it's going to be. So, of course, we rehearse and we go over it, but I don't, I never want my girls to look like they have been just drilling this routine, So I think a more effortless routine, a more flowy routine is going to be better than a precise and perfect rehearsed routine.
That's really interesting and good to hear as well. When you look at someone on stage and whether let's say they're doing like a nice flowy routine, how can you identify their weaknesses? Because like it seems like so many girls, like especially with it when it comes to top 3, top 5, sometimes at the pro level, it seems like even top 10. So many of the girls, like everybody looks so amazing, and it's like the placements are so close, it's hard to even tell. So how is a judge, or how are you as a posing coach able to identify someone's weakness and help them hide it?
So, and when you say weakness, do you mean in physique or like posing?
Oh, let's go with physique first and then posing.
Okay. So, yeah, because it's two very different things, right? Like, and I always tell my girls too, it's like, look, you can have a girl who has a phenomenal physique. She is walking on stage looking like she's already pro, or Miss Bikini Olympia herself. She came out of the womb lifting weights, and you're just looking at her like, oh my God, she's amazing. And she walks out there and she doesn't know how to present it. It could be to her detriment. It doesn't matter necessarily that she just has the most prim and prop physique. And then you've got somebody who's, clearly first time competitor, and they're, got a good physique, but they've got some things to work on, and they just walk out there and rock it. They could very well beat that girl. And I've seen it happen,
Yeah.
and it's not because she had a better physique, but it's all in how she presented it that it made it portray that she did, in fact, have a better physique. So it's, as far as posing goes, I don't like to tell my girls, like, okay, I know some coaches are like, all right, so if you're up there and this girl is up there, you should pose like this. I don't believe in doing that, because I believe in sticking to your guns and what works for you. What's your best poses? Don't just pop into another pose because homegirl's doing that pose and you want to like try to beat her out, because she very well could beat you out in that pose, like if you're changing it and stuff. So I think that if, as far as posing goes, it's, stick to your guns and just do what you are doing best. Because with my girls in posing, you're only doing what works for you. We don't do anything that doesn't look right for you. And that goes from the pose to the walk to the transition, everything. So I'm big on sticking to your guns and not changing anything up. And then as far as the physique goes, that's what I do in my coaching. I'm very different with my coaching. So a lot of girls don't like it, but I think it's the only way to learn. I take your posing routine. We don't learn it until it's probably like the 6th session or so. As far as the full routine goes, I'm a builder. So we start from ground zero. I don't care if you're a pro. I've posed pros. I've posed national level girls, amateurs, first timers. I have women who were 16 all the way to 60. I've posed women all over the world. I treat you all the exact same way. And that's starting from ground zero, finding poses that look good for your physique, and then building on it and building a routine that comes from you. So as far as like, hiding flaws or anything, we figure that out during our sessions when we're building the routine.
That's awesome. That seems like a really good approach, because not only are you as a coach able to understand their body and their physique, but you're also
Mm.
able to teach them how to understand it too, and to start noticing those things and get comfortable with what feels and looks really good. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to start kind of wrapping this up a little bit, but I did want to get your insight on one thing, which was, now that like you are pursuing so many different passions and you're able to feel fulfilled through all these things, what helps you to maintain the balance in your life that keeps your mind healthy while of course enjoying all of those things that you're pursuing?
Yeah, so that took me a really long time to figure out. I'm still, I mean, like, listen, I don't have it all figured out. I know a lot of girls may look at me and go, oh my gosh, she's just got it all figured out. She is just good to go. No, lies. I'm still, I'm still always trying to find that balance. There are times when I'm like on a hustle mode and I'm just working too much. And because I do kind of, have my own businesses and work from home, that I'll just, work too much. And then I'm not doing the things that I love, like in taking my workout serious or my diet serious. And I gotta go, oh, okay, wait, we gotta be healthy. So let's do this. And then there's times when I'm going too far and I'm like trying to go diet mode and cardio and kill my training too much, that I'm not like wanting to do life things, like go visit family. I have family that lives 2 hours away. So I'm like, sometimes that feels a little bit of a burden to get in the car and drive down,
Yeah.
or just go out and do friends things, like go out and drink or have drinks or eat for that matter, because I'm like trying to, whatever, be in shape, whatever my goal is for that moment. So I'm still always trying to find that balance. But what I've learned is to just not fret over every little detail. I think that's what has always gotten me into trouble, is that I fret over every life situation, like going out and eating. That's just the best reference that I can, it's okay. You can go out and eat clean. I used to always think going out and eating with friends or getting a drink, I had to drink. Well, you don't. You could have water or a Diet Dr. Pepper or whatever.
Yeah.
And the same with food. I mean, you can get a freaking grilled chicken sandwich at McDonald's, for crying out loud. Like, you can eat clean,
Yeah.
and I kind of had to learn that, not every meal has to be weighed out on a scale and cooked from my cooking, or I don't have to drink to be social, or, just anything like that. Just saying yes a lot more, and not no all the time, I think is my main thing. Just say yes, and don't miss out on any experience, whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be just like going out and eating. Like, I mean, it can just be anything. I just started saying yes to a lot more things and adjusting my life accordingly, and not living my life according to the scale of any kind, for that matter.
Wow. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. I'm like taking notes just because it's so good.
Good,
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
seriously, that was a really powerful share. I think especially because and it almost connects back to where we started, which is like we get so hyper focused on one thing that everything else kind of falls by the wayside, instead of like, okay, I can have all these different things, I can do all these different things, and I'm strong enough and smart enough to adjust along the way. And I know personally I still struggle with that sometimes too. I'm like, well, if if I go out to eat with these people, I'm just going to order what I already made at home, so I might as well just stay home, because there's no point in going out to eat. It's like so much more than that,
Oh
it's
yeah.
that experience. And yet sometimes we do get caught up in it. And same thing with just going out in general, or, oh, I'm going to go here instead of the gym, and then I'll have to come back to the gym later. Do I really want to do that? Like, it's wild. But what you said really struck a chord with me, in the sense of, you can make adjustments to your life, but you don't have to live, like, you shouldn't live your life by a scale of any sort. Like, that is so powerful. And I appreciate you saying that. Like, wow, I love it.
Yeah, good. I mean, but it's true, and of course, like I was saying, I still have to work on that, but I'm a very like black and white kind of person. There's never really any gray with me. You're going to know what I'm feeling, and like, you're never going to have to guess. And I'm all in or all out kind of person. And so it's been very, very difficult for me to find a true balance. And I think a lot of people need to also know that there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's what works for you, and nobody can tell you how to do it. You have to find what works for you. I think a lot of people get so focused in on like, oh, I have to do 50% here, 50% here, or 25, 25, 25, 25. And it's like, no. You need to find, okay, if you can do 50 here, 25, 25 here, and that works, go for it, big girl. Like, you've got to find what works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really empowering too. It's a great reminder that we don't always have to seek external sources or validation to tell us what's right or wrong or what's working or not, when the answers are already within us if we are just open enough to listen and see it and really feel into what's actually working in our favor or not. And I think comparison usually is what makes us feel like we're not doing the best we need to, or we're not doing what's right. And I think a lot of us competitors are all or nothing, where a gray area is so much scarier than just being all black or all white. Like it's scarier to go into that gray area because our comfort is in all or nothing. And most of us won't even go to the nothing because we're loving being fully committed and on.
Oh yeah.
Does that change for you on prep versus in an improvement season or time off?
Yeah, so, and that was kind of the thing too, whenever I came back, I told myself that I would still do all those things, that I still like to do and go out and be social. I'm just either going to bring my food with me, or I'm going to get something cooked really clean, or I'm just not going to eat at all. But I am, obviously, as you get closer to a show, we all know you get tired. You don't want to be social. You don't want to put makeup on. You don't want to go do whatever it is. So there is a point where I kind of just shut it down and I focus, because I do think that this sport, as well as any sport, there is a time where you have to hone in and just put your all into it. It's not really a sport you can just kind of half-ass.
Right.
Like you can't, you've got to full throttle. And that's fine. That's part of why you're doing it. But if you do that and never do anything else, like always, then that's when it's a problem. But if you're just competing, a couple times a year, and you're going to, and you tell yourself, and, anybody else is kind of involved with you, family, friends, spouses, whatever, hey, around this time, it's crunch time, I'm focusing, then that's fine. Everybody's got to have that time where they kind of focus on themselves. But when it becomes the lifestyle, that's when it's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. And I've definitely been in that place before, and it's good. It's definitely important to let people know around you, but it's also important to be able to come back out of that and see that there is more. And you're, like I said earlier, you're a really great example of this. And I seriously had just so much fun prepping for this interview because, this is more for the people listening because I already told you this, but really your vibe, your energy, and who you are is so refreshing and genuine. And I just really love what you're about. And I think that what you're doing is really amazing. And the person you are and the person you're becoming and what you're sharing with the world is really, really cool. And I would really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. And I, of course, want everybody else to be able to say thank you to you as well. So can you just let them know where they can find you, connect with you, work with you, learn more about you, all that stuff? Now's a good time to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so sweet. It just means the absolute world. So thank you so much for those kind words. Because,
Of course.
I mean, even though I'm here to motivate and inspire and empower and try to utilize my platform for good reason, this girl needs motivation too. Like I still need to, have something to keep me going. And those things that you say, and when I hear from my girls and they say those things, those are the things that keep me going. Those are the things that are like, okay, we doing this for the people. Let's do this, So it really does mean more than you know. So I appreciate
Oh,
that.
good.
But you guys can follow me. So first and foremost, of course, on Instagram. That is my main platform. I am on there all of the time doing all of the things. And that is at Tawna Eubanks McCoy. So my name, TAWNA EUBANKS McCoy MCCOY. And I am also on Facebook. And you can just search for Tawna Eubanks and my page should come up. Also, I have a YouTube channel. I don't have a YouTube link, but if you search Tawna Eubanks, I will be sure to come up as well. So please be sure to subscribe to me. I've got lots of cool videos and not just workouts. I do everything from my fashion hauls, vlogs. My husband and I do funny, fitness couple Q&As and some other things coming too. And I think that's about it. Oh yeah, of course. Come on to my website. So www.tawnaeubanks.com. That is where you can find just about anything and everything. All my social media platforms are on there. You can look at my style blog. I have a fitness blog. I have all my information about my online training, and I even have my information about posing coaching. And I have all my girls on there, testimonials, before and afters. It's just a really cool one place that you can find all my things. So those are the main thing where you can find me. And where I live religiously.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm going to make sure to put all of that information in the show notes. And I just realized, I have asked you so many questions. I've gotten so much value, but I didn't ask one question that I end every episode with. So I have to ask you now.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll think about it all day. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is thinking about competing? And then advice that you would give to someone who is competing and on the hunt for their pro card?
Okay, so to the girl who is thinking about competing, my best advice is to first and foremost do your research. Okay, research in meaning research coaches, research people that can help you go through it. I often see a lot of girls try to do this by themselves. And even though this is a very individual sport, it's actually not. You need a team and you need help because you need somebody to guide you through the nutrition and training and posing. Now, you could do it by yourself and just say that you want to, have a goal to just do it, and that's fine. But I think having somebody to help you, to guide you through all those things that you don't know is super important. So finding the right coach, and not only just to help you with your physique as it changes, but what I've been talking about this entire episode, mentally. You're going to need somebody to lean on during there and somebody who understands, and your spouse is not always going to understand. So I definitely think just researching everything and finding out a lot about it before you just jump in and do it.
Awesome.
And then to somebody who is competing and they're trying to go for their pro card, just like I was saying before, don't get so honed in on the pro card. I know every girl that competes ends up saying, I want to get my pro card. I don't even know how to really say it. It's like, of course, have that goal. And I wish that every girl could turn pro, but it's not realistic. And I don't want you to get lost in that goal of going for your pro card. I find that, just like I did on just trying to get that, defending my titles and get that top 5 Olympia, I lost myself. I lost the reason why I do this. And, ask yourself, why do you want the pro card so bad? Like, is it worth losing yourself over and why you're doing it all? And not saying that, turning pro is not a good thing or whatever, but I think that there is a lot of misconception on what turning pro means. So just find out what it means to you and not what you think it is. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense. I think that's really, really great advice, especially heading into a time where a lot of girls, especially by the time they're listening to this, are going to be starting their seasons or already have. So I think that was awesome of you to share. People are going to be going to the shows, trying to learn about it. So I appreciate you sharing that advice and taking the time with me today. To everybody listening, I'm going to put all her information in the show notes. So that's for Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, the website. All of that's going to be on the show notes on www.celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening to this right away, she'll be at the top of that page. If you're listening to this in the future, there's going to be a category section with her name that you can just click and it'll take you straight to her episode specifically. Other than that, I hope that you guys can rate, review, and subscribe. That helps me a lot. If you're a patron, I just want to say thank you so much. It does a lot for this podcast and helping me to run it and fulfill this goal of getting 1 episode a week out for you all. So thank you so, so much for your support, or at least just sharing with me what you think of the podcast, of the episodes, of the takeaways you're getting. I can't even express how much it means to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode.